Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? Today is Friday, September 8, 2023. Coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. A Philadelphia motorist shot within seconds by an officer who approached his vehicle at point-blank range. Now that former cop has been charged with murder. The report of Georgia's grand jury who indicted Donald Trump was released today. They said Senator Lindsay Graham of South Carolina and former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn and 21 others should have been charged for election fraud. What you got to now say, Lindsay? A black Oklahoma newspaper says Superintendent Ryan Walters, actually a black digital site, the Black Wall Street Times, says that Superintendent Ryan Walters has banned them from reporting on them. The managing editor of the Black Wall Street Times will be here to tell us what the hell is going on there. Plus, a black man, a veteran, tells Florida Governor Ron DeSantis he had a hand in Jacksonville's recent racist mass shooting. Ooh, Ron was not happy, y'all. He clapped back at his heated exchange, and they removed the brother. I thought y'all liked free speech. It's also been 16 months since a small majority black town avoided being taken over by the state's comptroller. Tonight, we'll have an update on what's happening in Mason, Tennessee. And today is World Suicide Prevention Day. A mental wellness expert will explain why the black youth suicide rate has more than doubled in recent years. It is time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the biz, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the fine. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down for
A former Philly cop facing several charges, including murder, for killing a 27-year-old driver last month after surveillance footage showed him shooting him through a car window at point-blank range. Mark Dial turned himself in today after being charged with murder, voluntary manslaughter, aggravated assault, simple assault, reckless endangering another person, and official oppression. Dial fatally shot motorist Eddie Irizarry through his car window in North Philadelphia on August 14th, seconds after getting out of the patrol car. Police have released body cam footage of the incident. Now, I want to warn you, the video you're about to see is extremely disturbing. And so we're going to give you about 10 seconds if you want to turn away, if you don't want to watch this video. Because, again, this is, stuff that we show all the time. And we do this because we don't want you to ignore the reality of what these cops are doing. Watch this.
I'll shoot you. 413 shots fired, 100 West Willard. Get your hand up right now!
See officer, please hurry, 1 West Willard. See officer, please hurry, 1 West Willard.
Mark, hold up, Mark. Move the car. Mark, move the car.
All right.
All right, Josh 113.
Get us cars, please. 100 Willard.
All right, first car location with condition. Give me the
Okay, folks, now, so I want to do this here. First of all, before I play it again, Dow's attorney, Brian McMonigal, says the shooting was justified. Listen to what he said.
The decision to charge Officer Mark Dial with murder is appalling. The undisputed facts of this case are that an individual made an illegal turn right in front of police officers, took off at a high rate of speed, and then tried to evade officers by going down a one-way street the wrong way, tried to hide from them, and when police officers ordered him to show his hands, he instead produced a weapon and pointed it at an armed police officer. Video evidence in this case, which we've uncovered, demonstrates completely that Officer Dial got out of his car, ordered him to show his hands, and then heard gun, and you can hear it on the video. He then saw an individual pointing what he thought was a gun right in his face. Fearing that he was going to be the next police officer killed in the streets of Philadelphia, he fired. What's telling in the video is that as Officer Dial is firing, he's taking retreat. He's trying to retreat and trying to find cover because he believes the individual has a gun. In no world is those facts murder. Now, we intend to right this wrong. This decision today puts police officers in peril at a time when they're dealing with perhaps the most violent time in our city's history. We intend to right this wrong and bring him, this young man home.
Does his partner bear any responsibility for yelling gun?
You know, what each of them saw when they looked into that car was glare and what appeared to be a weapon. They thought it was a weapon. They thought it was a gun. And when, you approach a car like that, I don't know how everybody else reacts. When a police officer tells me to put my hands up, I put my hands up, or I give him my license. This individual decided to produce a weapon. And that, unfortunately and tragically, is why he died. And to put these officers, this officer, in harm's way like this is appalling.
What are the degree of the charges in this case?
We don't know yet.
The officer in the video sounds like he says, drop the effing knife. You believe he thought he had a gun?
Keep listening and listen closely. And if you don't hear a gun, give me a call. Thank you.
Thank you. There you go. There it is.
Now I'm confused. Okay, first of all, let's do this here. I want y'all to play the video from the beginning. And I want everybody watching, and those listening, because I'm gonna start the stopwatch to show you how many seconds from the opening of the car door to the first bullet being fired. It was actually less than 10 seconds. Play it.
shots fired, 100 West Willard.
Okay, come on.
Get your hand up right now.
All right. Folks, 6.64 seconds. That officer made a judgment in 6.64 seconds. Now, you heard the attorney sit there and say, oh, gun. Go to my iPad. This is the story from Philly.com. It says the day of the crime, police said that Irizarry had lunged at Dial while holding a knife, leading the officer to fire his gun. But video later showed him say that he had been sitting in his car with a knife in his hand when Dial opened fire just seconds after arriving on the scene. Now, I want you to play the video again.
Show me in. Boy, I'll shoot you. 413 shots fired, 100 West Willard.
Do me a favor. I want you to scroll back, and I want you to scroll back, and I want you to scroll. So I want you to scroll the video back, and I want you to scroll it back. I want you to slow it down, put it on pause, and I want you to scroll forward, and I want you to scroll to the point where he goes in front of the car. Okay, keep going. And actually, I checked it again. It was 5.81 seconds. Keep going. Keep scrubbing forward. Keep going. Right there. Now I'm confused. Now, no, it's come back. Because it looks like the window is shut. Drop the lower third for me, please. Now scroll forward. What I'm trying to figure out here is, if Matt, Michael, Kelly, look at this. Guys, keep scrolling forward. I'm trying. Okay, fine. Play it, but then hit pause. I want to see if keep going. Freeze. Now, this is where I'm confused. First of all, let me bring in my panel right here. Right now, Michael Imhotep hosts the African History Network show out of Detroit. Matt Manning, civil rights attorney, and Corpus Christi, Kelly Bethea, communication strategist out of D.C. So, Matt, here's why I'm confused. The cops said that the gunman lunged at the cop. Go back to the video. I'm sorry, Matt, how do you lunge at the cop when the door is closed and the window is up?
Can't. It's not possible. And that's the thing with knives. With police officers, very often you hear them talk about how a person with a knife can, quote, close the distance, is the terminology I normally hear, in about 20 feet space. And here, obviously, you have a medium of a door. So it's completely unreasonable. Beyond that, the idea that the officer has his gun out and is threatening to shoot before he even recognizes whether there's an actual threat makes no sense, particularly because the other officer has a vantage point on the other side of the car.
Not only that, do me a favor. I'm going to the middle. Put the video in that middle screen. Cause see, this is where I'm just totally befuddled by when these cops start lying. Okay, and again, all right. So here's what we see that I find to be real interesting. Here's what I find to be real interesting here, Matt. Cop standing right here. It's a car right here. If I'm getting, now I want y'all to re-rack this here. If I'm getting out of the car, I'm approaching the car, I can take cover behind the car. Like, he literally is rolling up. Now go ahead and press play. Now watch it here. He's getting out, y'all. He's running straight, going around. Again, so they want us to believe that this attorney say that was somehow justified? Man, come on.
Well, first off, the most important thing is what I read on this is that the police actually, like you said that he lunged, and then the attorneys for his family released surveillance video showing that wasn't true. So that's crucial because the police, at least in this instance, started with the narrative that they knew was patently false and easily disproven by the video, number one. But beyond that, I mean, taking cover behind the car, I'll give him this. You know, a lot of these situations happen very quickly, obviously, and what you always hear them say is it was, quote, a rapidly evolving situation. But what makes that problematic as an argument in this instance is the other officers on the other side of the vehicle.
Right.
So if there was a true threat, what you would be hearing is gun, 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 you know, take cover, whatever commands they use to make him aware, hey, this guy has a weapon. You don't hear that, which makes it very hard to imagine that, in fact, that officer on the other side who has a better vantage point did not see that weapon. And it sounds more like this officer just went and had a hair trigger and pulled. And the real problem is it's coupled with his statement, I'm going to effing shoot you, right? I mean, if he ran up and said, hey, put it down and shot him, then I think it'd be an easier argument that he was truly in fear of his life and safety. But here he's coming out, he's communicating a threat. He's seeing what a reasonable officer on the other side of the vehicle who's on the scene does not see as a threat. It's going to be extremely problematic, I think, to defend that. Although I will tell you, I think what we will see here potentially is the prosecutors argue in the same way they did in that Botham Jean case with Amber Geiger, where they say, look, we're not saying it was intentional from a mental state standpoint. We're saying it was intentional from a pulling of the trigger standpoint, because I think mental state will be the difficult thing here for the prosecutors to come up against, right? Because you do see that it happens extremely quickly. But I think there's a very good possibility that 12 people in Pennsylvania don't find that to be credible, that he believed he was being faced with deadly force, particularly once you know that the police narrative was completely patently false. And he didn't lunge at anyone.
And that right there, Kelly, again, I'm always trying to tell people when cops lie. So here's the whole deal. So you've now got his attorney going, oh, the guy had a gun. Play that again. You can hear them say, gun, gun, gun. The cops, when they were interviewed on the scene, now freeze it again, freeze it right here, freeze it right here, freeze it. Now here's what's crazy. So again, Kelly, if I know prosecutors are going to do this here. His car, this is the guy's car right here, okay? It's a car right here. The cop's car is over here. My man is basically boxed in. He can't go anywhere. So if you're this officer, and this is where, now remember, we saw this happen in Minnesota, some other cases, where they talked about police training and protocol. If you're this cop, you're telling me you don't stand over here at a distance and yell at him, heck, get out of the car? No, he literally, press play, he literally runs around here, runs right here, and puts the gun probably 3 feet from the window, fire shots.
Yeah, it's not supposed to make sense because it doesn't. I think that the lawyers themselves are just kind of, running in circles trying to, give their client the best defense that they think possible. But in doing so, they are blatantly lying according to what we are seeing right now on this tape. And in all honesty, I just feel like it's par for the course when it comes to stories like this, where they want you to distrust what you see. They want you to distrust your own instinct and your own eyesight. They want you to just believe whatever they say because they think because of whether it's because it's a cop or it's because of a lawyer, pedigree, whatever, that they are more trustworthy than what you are actually seeing. I'm of the mindset that you are not going to pee on my leg and tell me that it's raining. He was boxed in. For all intents and purposes, at that point, he can't go anywhere. He's kind of under arrest. I mean, Matt, correct me if I'm wrong. Like, he can't go anywhere. He's boxed in. He's already, kind of sort of in custody. They didn't have to take it this far. And the whole saying of, you don't bring a knife to a gunfight, let's just say there was a knife involved. You have a gun.
Well, no. Let's be clear. No, he had a knife. What they said was, they initially on the scene said he lunged at Dial with the knife. Right. And so then they discovered there was a knife in the car. But how do you lunge at a cop sitting in a car with the window up and the door closed?
Yeah, and to Matt's point, you cannot, like, and that goes back to my point.
And it was 5.81 seconds from the door opening to the first shot. That's damn near close to the Tamir Rice case. So you're trying to convince me in 5.81 seconds, you yell, put your hands up, drop the knife, get out of the car. No, you didn't.
And we see that he didn't. We see that they didn't. They were literally just kind of sort of bullying their way through this situation, and
it's called shoot first, ask questions later.
Shoot first and ask questions later.
Now check this out. So apparently there's another. I can't do this here. So we're gonna go to a break. We come back. So there was surveillance footage, gives you another angle of the shooting, and this is where this cop's attorney. Oh, by the way, when a cop came there, he was surrounded by the fraternal order police. Not only that, normally in cases in Philadelphia, when somebody's been charged with murder, there's no bail. Guess what the judge did? She did $500,000 a bail. So the fraternal order police put up the 50 grand. That's why the guy got released. So we come back, we're gonna show you the other surveillance video so you can see from a different angle what transpired and led to this cop in Philadelphia being charged with murder today. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
On the next Get Wealthy with me, Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, Black women are starting businesses at the fastest rate than any other segment. However, finding the funding to build them is challenging. On our next Get Wealthy, we're going to talk with author Catherine Finney, who wrote the book, Build the Damn Thing. And she's going to be sharing exactly what we need to do to achieve success in spite of the odds.
As an entrepreneur of color, it's first, building your personal advisory board. I think that's one of the things that's helped me the most. The personal advisory board of the people who are in the business of you personally, and want to see you succeed.
That's right here on Get Wealthy, only on Black Star Network.
On his first day in office, with the country in crisis, President Biden got to work for us. Cutting Black child poverty in half, more money for Black entrepreneurs, millions of new, good-paying jobs. He's lowered the cost of living and prescription drugs. But there's more to do. He gets it because we all deserve dignity, safety, respect, and a chance to do more than just get by, but to get ahead.
I'm Joe Biden, and I approve this message.
Next, right here on The Frequency, the woman they call the Gifted Eye, hip-hop celebrity photographer Coy Soldier. She's the master storyteller that captured the history of hip-hop through the lens of her camera.
Tupac comes out, the next thing you know, you didn't know who they were at first. You just seen all these dudes just come rushing the stage. Then you realize Biggie gets a bottle of champagne, he pops it open, sprays it on the crowd, he drinks the bottle.
Coy Soldier, the hip-hop celebrity photographer, joining me right here on the next episode of The Frequency on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Jo Marie Payton, voice of Sugar Mama on Disney's Louder and Prouder Disney Plus, and I'm with Roland Martin on Unfiltered.
All right, folks, so here's another angle, if you will, surveillance footage from this shooting in Philadelphia that led to this former cop being charged today with murder. Watch this. See the guy, he pulls over. So then he backs up. So you see, car behind him, car on his side. He can't even open the door. Cop pulls up, gets out, runs around, gun pointed directly at him, boom, starts firing. Now let's do this here. Let's start this from the top. Then I'm gonna tell you when to start and stop it. All right, so let's start it over again. All right, so again, logic, I'm trying to understand logic, okay? So the guy pulls up. So then he's gonna back up. Again, car's right here, car's behind him. Cone here, car's in front. They pull up, they get out. Freeze. Guys, okay, it's too slow. So here's the old deal. So he walks over. Now understand, the other cop is standing right here, y'all. He's standing right here. This guy comes around and he literally, back it up about 5 seconds, if you can, just scroll it back 5 seconds, and then you're gonna see he literally puts the gun almost at press play. He puts the gun almost against the window. Like you're sitting here, now freeze. So he's coming around, holding his gun out, now press play. He's gonna go right up to the car, boom, starts firing. He runs back on the other side. He runs on his freeze. God, the dial literally is now standing on the opposite side of the police car. His partner is standing here. Now press play. His partner is going to come around here, dials down on the other side of the car. Michael Imhotep, that makes literally no sense.
Yeah, it's a number of things wrong here, and they got caught in the lie, it appears, Roland. First of all, watching the police cruiser pull up on the side of the Toyota Camry, I don't understand, because there was a vehicle behind that Toyota, I don't know why they didn't pull in front on the angle to box that car in.
So you mean right here? So what you're saying is when they pull up, here they come, you would think they would have pulled up right here to block them in.
To box it in, then go on the other side of your police cruiser, use your police cruiser as a shield. If you're going to pull out your gun then. One of the officers runs right up to the driver's side and then fires the gun. And they come in so quickly. Now, in the video, it appears that I think it was the passenger side window was partially cracked, but it looks like the driver's side window was all the way up.
Yeah, so, no. Both of them were all. So pull up the dash cam video. So what you're gonna see is this side, this right here. This one is partially up. Okay.
That's passenger side.
Passenger side partially up, but the other side, windows all the way up. But again,
driver side.
This is why. Remember what often happens when, and Matt knows as well, but Michael, remember when they have these rules in many of these places where the cops don't have to do interviews immediately on the scene. They can talk 30, 60 days later. They can look at dash cam video and they get interviewed. When this shooting happened, they said he lunged at the cop with a knife. Now all of a sudden, the attorney is like, oh my God, that was a weapon. That was a gun. You can hear them yell gun. So let's do this here, Michael. I'm gonna play this. Let's listen, and then let's see if y'all hear gun, because I didn't quite hear it. So pull the dash cam video and let's press play.
Come here! Boy, shut it! I'll shoot you! 413, shots fired, 100 West Willard. Get your hand up right now!
This is the officer, please, hurry, 1 West Willard. This is the officer, please, hurry, 1 West Willard.
Move the
Mark, move the car. All right. Move the car. Move the car.
Get us cars, please. 101. All right, first car location with condition. Give me the 8.
All right, Michael, show your hands, I'll shoot you. I didn't hear gun at all in that video.
Now, not only did I not hear gun, I didn't see Eddie, I didn't see him lunge at the officer with a knife either. So there's a number of things wrong here. And the other thing is that the driver's side window appears to be all the way up, okay? I'm not certain that Eddie even heard the commands from the officer. And if he did hear the commands, they swooped on him so quickly, you have to give the person adequate time to respond to the commands, okay? So they get caught in the lie, okay, number one. Number two, also, Philadelphia District Attorney Larry Krasner said that 6 shots were fired at Eddie as well.
Right.
All right. Now, 2 knives were found inside the vehicle. I'm reading from the article from the New York Times. Investigators found 2 knives in Mr. Irizarry's car. Now, there's nothing saying that they found a gun in his car.
So now here's the thing, Matt. Again, if you're coming around and you're going, put your hands up, get out of the car, you're waiting for them to respond. So I didn't time it in terms of when he came around the car. I started the stopwatch from when he opened the door to the first shot fired. It was 5.81 seconds.
Yeah, I hear that. Here's the thing, Roland. You know, I need to change my analysis a little bit. So in full candor, the fact that they're coming behind him and he whips into a space and they pull up in front of him, I mean, I do understand, honestly, from a legal perspective, that it's at least going to create the impression that this was a heightened situation, right? So when you see the video from that perspective, that does lend some credence to the idea that something had happened before that caused them to be pursuing him. Now,
apparently he was driving erratically, and then he pulled in front of the cops. That was the cause.
And that's important. I mean, because if we're going to analyze these honestly, then we have to recognize that that is something that would put the police on high alert. However, getting out of the vehicle and shooting as quickly as he did, I don't know that that's also necessarily legally problematic if you can show a jury that there was a credible, reasonable belief that you were being faced with deadly force, at least under Texas law. The reason I think that fails here is because that other officer on the other side, unless he's screaming gun, screaming threat, screaming whatever, then what you have is somebody who's coming up and who is manifesting an intent to use that weapon.
So how about so hold on one second. So I want y'all to do this here. Go back to the body cam video, and I want us now to listen. We're going to do this. We're going to listen. How many voices do we hear? And then we're going to come back to you, Matt. Because I think until after the shooting, we don't hear the second cop until after the shooting. Press play.
Right. Show me in! Boy, show it! I'll shoot you! 413, shots fired, 100 West Willard. Get your hand up right now!
The officer, please hurry, 1 West Willard. This is the officer, please hurry, 1 West Willard.
Now, hold up. Now, do this here. I want to play this again, but I want y'all to freeze it at a certain point. I'm gonna tell you because I need you to. This is what I find to be real interesting here that I just saw that I did not see the first time. That's really interesting. Now, it's a smart move by the other cop to stand back. So go to the beginning, but I want y'all to show. I'm gonna show y'all the position of his partner when he comes around. Okay, watch this. Okay, shots fired. Boom, boom, boom. Freeze. Play it again. No. Keep playing. Press play. What you're gonna see is freeze. Right here, Matt. His partner literally backed all the way up to the curb. You don't really hear, to your point, you don't hear the partner, because remember, the partner came around and was on the other side of the vehicle. He's looking in the vehicle. You're right. He doesn't say gun. He doesn't say weapon. You hear none of that.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't hear that. And I'll tell you this, too. Look, I don't practice in Pennsylvania, so my analysis obviously is primarily what I would see as a prosecutor or criminal defense attorney in Texas. But here's the thing. If he's really credibly faced with a threat, he would not be advancing toward where that threat is. That is going to be the question, because the jury is going to be asked, did he have, I mean, at least under our law, it would be, did he have a reasonable belief he was being faced with deadly force? And I don't know how reasonable your belief can be if you already have your gun holstered and you're advancing toward the thing you ultimately say is a threat. Now, obviously, do the police take people into custody and all of that? Of course, right? But you generally are not going to do that until the point where you feel that threat is abated. So it's kind of a hard sell that you're heading toward what is allegedly a deadly threat, and then you immediately use the force despite there not being any, affirmative act on his part to, endanger you. And beyond that, clearly we're starting with a bold-faced lie.
And
right?
not just that, freeze right here. Freeze right. Actually, do this here. I'm do the surveillance video because I think, first of all, it gives you, it's much further back. Here's what's crazy here, Kelly. Again, same thing. If you're facing a so-called threat, watch his reaction. Watch his reaction. He basically sort of like jumps back and starts firing. Watch this. You're going to see him come around. Boom, 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 boom. Hit, calm. Step right up. So again, this is sort of what sort of I see here, Kelly. He comes around, he's yelling, and when he gets here, then he sees a knife in the guy's hand, and he just all of a sudden, then he starts firing. He got that close. So to Matt's point, if it was a threat, dude, come on. You literally are damn near about to open the door. Kelly?
Yes, I understand. There's simply no excuse for this as far as I'm concerned. As somebody who's not practicing and just looking at this as a concerned citizen and someone who has seen far too many of these police brutality videos, I'm just tired of the excuses. Like, it doesn't make sense to me that even if there are exigent circumstances, even if they are in hot pursuit, even if you have every type of loophole at your disposal to make this somewhat right, the fact of the matter is his door was closed, the window was up, and from the angles of these videos and from the body cam footage, there was not an immediate threat to this cop's life, and therefore he should not have used lethal force against this young man. That is all I'm seeing. That is the only analysis that makes sense to me at this juncture. It is exhausting to me that we have to keep analyzing videos like this, because to me, even though I am not judge, jury, executioner, it still looks clear that he was in the wrong. Now, I also realized, Matt, brought in a good point. I'm going to bring in another. Pennsylvania is still under heavy watch regarding the guy who escaped prison. So maybe everybody is on pins and needles regarding crime altogether in that jurisdiction. Even still, that to me would say that you would use even more precaution when you are facing other possible offenders. And that isn't even taking place here.
Right.
So any excuse that they can come up with isn't going to fly here, because they worked against the excuse that they could have possibly used.
And here's
just wrong.
And here's the thing that cracks me up here, Michael. First of all, the audio, it says the audio doesn't come on the body cam footage until the officer presses record. Dial's partner, his audio to his body-worn footage was not turned on. So now the cops are saying, oh, his partner yelled gun, but there's no audio of his partner yelling gun because his partner didn't turn his body camera on. And again, when you look at now, and here's the deal, because remember Matt talked about what happened before. This is what the Philadelphia Inquirer says. Dial and his partner, officers with the 24th Police District, encountered Irizarry just before 12:30 p.m. on August 14th near B and Westmoreland Streets, North Philadelphia. They said they saw him driving erratically and followed him south for a few blocks until Irizarry turned the wrong way onto the 100 block of East Willard Street. They put up next to him. So deadly force, and this is the thing that I keep saying, you can't come back from death.
Right.
So you're telling me that deadly force was required because somebody was driving erratically and then they went down the wrong way. What do we say numerous times? Something happened to Michael Feed there. But what do we say numerous times, Matt, when we see deaths happen because of basic traffic stops?
Because of basic what? Roland, I lost you.
Traffic stops.
Oh, well, I mean, it's never defensible, right? I mean, except for the circumstances, obviously, where it is. But most of the time it isn't defensible, particularly because in a situation like this, I mean, he didn't have a gun. If he would have taken a little bit longer, to your point, to recognize that, then we wouldn't have had shots fired. And, look, I have to readily concede, to be credible, that this is a very difficult split-second, thing to be in if you're a police officer, to ascertain whether it's a gun or a knife or what the case may be. But it's all relative to what kind of force you're actually being faced with. And the big problem for him is that door is in between him and Mr. Irizarry, which means if his partner, let's take them at their word, if the prosecutors and the family attorneys are saying it's knife, and he can clearly hear him yelling knife, then yeah, he is being faced with force potentially, but that force is attenuated from him. It's not facing him the same way a gun would be. And the idea that he can unload 6 shots and, kill this young man in his car when this very easily could have been something where they waited for him to just surrender himself and we wouldn't be having this conversation, is going to make it hard to me for 12 people in Pennsylvania to believe a self-defense charge. Now, I will tell you, this will not be the easiest case for prosecutors.
Nope.
I do. There's the, intent where he says, I'm going to effing shoot you. That definitely doesn't help. But it is a rapidly evolving situation, and that makes it more difficult than some others. But the problem here is he approaches the vehicle from the other side. All of his vantage points are through transparent mediums. He can look through the windshield and through the window.
Right.
And if he doesn't immediately recognize what it is, if his partner is yelling knife, it's a hard sell to me that you think that you are reasonable in using deadly force in that circumstance.
And the thing here, this shooting took place August 14th. Larry Krasner, the DA, did not take a lot of time to charge this cop with murder. That was just 2.5 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
And we've seen some cases where some of these DAs take 6-9 months. And so we certainly will see what happens next with this story. Got to go to a break. We come back, folks. We're going to talk about what's happening in Oklahoma. Oh, the Oklahoma Superintendent of Schools, that nutcase MAGA fool, he's now ticked off at a black-owned media company. We'll talk about that. We'll also talk about how Senator Lindsay Graham barely escaped being indicted for kissing Trump's ass and trying to help him steal votes in Georgia. We'll discuss that as well. You're watching on YouTube, hit the like button, folks. It ain't hard. Hit like, keep commenting. Don't forget, support us in what we do as well. Please join our Bring the Funk fan club. Your resources are critically important for us to do what we do. I did drop by the mailbox before I came here. And so these literally are the folks who sent checks and money orders to the show. We appreciate that. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing on average $50 each a year. That's $4.19 a month, 13 cents a day. Why is this important? Because, again, every single one of these checks, every single one of these money orders is critical. People have given more, they've given less. We appreciate every single dollar. But this is what we have to do to keep black-owned media independent, to keep us moving forward. We don't get a lot of support from a lot of major companies. They simply give us all these excuses, brand safety. But we see a lot of their ads on Fox News. So you absolutely matter to us, and please send your check and money order, P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. Cash App, $RM Unfiltered. PayPal, R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com, Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Be sure to get a copy of my book, White Fear, How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds. Proceeds go right back into the show. Get it at Books, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, Target, order it on Amazon. Get the audio version on Audible. We'll be right back.
President Biden has delivered for Black America. More funding for Black entrepreneurs. Millions of new, good-paying jobs. He's lowering the cost of medications and the cost of living. Joe Biden is delivering for us, and that's the facts.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen shots.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
I'm Faraji Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
Hello, I'm Paula J. Parker. Truly proud on the Proud Family.
I am Tommy Davidson. I play Oscar on Proud Family, Louder and Proud.
Hi, I'm Jo Marie Payton, voice of Sugar Mama on Disney's Louder and Prouder, Disney Plus. And I'm with Roland Martin on Unfiltered.
Folks, we're telling y'all about this MAGA nut in Oklahoma, Superintendent of Public Instruction Ryan Walters, an absolute idiot. This fool just signed a deal with PragerU. He wants to diminish the telling of black history. Now, apparently, he has a segregated media policy. Black Wall Street Times reporters say they have been banned from taking interviews as of Wednesday. Joining me now from Tulsa, the managing editor of Black Wall Street Times, Dion Osborne. Dion, glad to have you here. All right, what the hell's going on? What happened?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. This all started from a request I made for a simple interview. Ryan Walters is trying to bring PragerU, the fake educational curriculum that is really just right-wing propaganda, into Oklahoma. And so I reached out to his communications director asking for an interview. And that was when he responded asking me if I had seen some tweets that my editor-in-chief had made on his personal account. The tweets had called Ryan Walters a Nazi, a Klanman, things like that, based on the policies that he's been proposing. And so I tried to explain to him that, what someone says on their personal account has no bearing on my news reporting, and they didn't accept that response, and we're banned.
This is the announcement that they made on September 5th. Oklahoma State Department of Education launched an ongoing partnership with PragerU Kids. PragerU Kids provides educational, entertaining, pro-American kids content. I am thrilled to announce this partnership with PragerU, said State Superintendent Ryan Walters. This expansion of our available resources will help ensure high-quality materials rich in American history and values will be available to the teachers and students. We will work together to find ways for PragerU to create content that will enrich the education of Oklahoma students. And of course, he says nothing about the fact that, frankly, they're liars, they're ideologues, they're propagandists, but they love to suggest that others are trying to indoctrinate our kids when that's exactly what PragerU is all about.
And that's the hypocrisy that really got to me, because when they told us that we would no longer be allowed to request interviews or even receive press releases, they called my editor-in-chief's posts inflammatory. I want to just take you through a few things that Superintendent Ryan Walters has said that I also feel is inflammatory. He's called teachers' unions terrorists. He said that he wants to have a civil war with the far left. We had a Black Santa in Oklahoma City last year, and he responded by making a post saying there's not going to be a woke Santa at his house. He's compared teachers' unions to slavery, and he retweeted a Libs of TikTok video that led to 7 school bomb threats in Tulsa.
Well, and here's him defending, and this is his tweet 2 days ago, putting Oklahoma education back on track without liberal indoctrination. Listen.
Yesterday, Oklahoma's partnership with PragerU, and I wanted to say a little bit more about it today. What this means is classrooms across the state will have better access to great resources to teach their kids American history. We want Oklahoma students to know more about American history than any other state in the country. We want them to know about American exceptionalism, want them to know about those founding documents, want them to understand what made this country great. PragerU does a tremendous job of offering these materials to our teachers, to our students, and also very transparent for parents to see everything that their kids are learning in the schools. And this is also going to be content that's factually based with no left-wing indoctrination. We always want our kids to know the facts, and we want them to have a great understanding of American history. So I'm very excited about this partnership with PragerU.
No left-wing indoctrination, but we're perfectly fine with right-wing indoctrination. Who has been funding PragerU? Hard-right conservative billionaires who've been funding them. That's how they're raising their money. That's who they are. And this is the site that Candace Owens used to work for. And of course, Dennis Prager is an absolute racist.
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about white fear, you know, what you wrote in your book is exactly what's taking place in Oklahoma. And it's so ironic because Oklahoma is a place where the most far right wing of the Republican Party holds complete power. They control the legislature, they control every state agency, and they control the judicial courts. And so this idea that they have to fight against the far left indoctrination is really just a mask for them wanting to ensure that new generations continue to be indoctrinated by, you know, their white supremacist ideas.
Again, it just shows exactly who they are. And so what's next for Black Wall Street Times?
So we're going to keep doing what we've been doing. This doesn't change a lot. It's not like we were first in line for interviews with Ryan Walters in the first place. At the last state school board meeting, actually, one of our journalists, a Black woman, the police was called on her. She was doing a live in the hallway updating the community about the meeting, and they called the police on her. And so this just is another layer adding to the way that they respond to Black journalists. We are looking into all legal options. We're definitely having some conversations with some groups to get advice, but we're just gonna, you know, just keep writing.
All right, then. Deon, we sort of appreciate it, man. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Well, what we're seeing here with this embracing of PragerU, Michael, is, again, all about the hard right. This is what they are all about. Florida, they've been using PragerU kids. Now we're seeing Oklahoma. Don't be shocked when Texas goes there as well. This is these people, they want to load up as much right-wing propaganda in our schools as possible.
Absolutely. While they attack the teaching of African-American history, suppress the teaching of African-American history, ban the advanced placement African-American studies class in Florida. You have Arkansas that's under Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders. You have Arkansas now following suit as well, where they're not going to offer it as a credited class in high schools. And this is a continuation of these culture wars that Donald Trump helped unleash. Okay, even before Christopher Rufo put out his tweets in March of 2015, talking about how they wanted to rebrand the term critical race theory, okay, and use it as an umbrella term to put everything that basically white people don't like about race under this one term. When Donald Trump signed his executive order in September 2020, banning the teaching of critical race theory, and when it came to training at the federal level, federal employees, that's what precipitated this, okay? And then you had the attack on the 1619 Project that Donald Trump also led. One of the problems that I've seen, and this is why we cannot put our faith into the Democratic Party. We have to use them as a tool, but we can't rely upon them as an agenda. I think people were too late in responding to this anti-critical race theory weaponization. This was an orchestrated, well-financed propaganda campaign coming from the right, and we didn't have something that was well-financed, well-planned to fight against it. So we have to have our own agendas. We can't rely upon the Democratic Party to create an agenda for us.
But the thing here, though, is it's not a question of the Democratic Party or the Republican Party, Kelly. It's not even a question of, in terms of how do we respond. When they initially started this whole thing, I said I felt that the response to the attacks on critical race theory, I thought they were wrong. Here's what I mean. What I mean is when you start playing on somebody else's turf, you now are trying to counter their narrative as opposed to really what the whole intent was. Christopher Rufo said it. Their intent was to put anything and everything dealing with race, DEI, whatever, all under the one banner. So in the minds of these white conservatives, the moment you say something, CRT.
Right.
So what happened? The attack on woke, then you had CRT, all these things begin to converge. What did they do? They were using media. That's all this is. With PragerU, and I'm gonna find it in a second, because the New York Times did a big story on them, and people need to understand who these people really are. They literally said, we need to create a digital media company where we can go after the hearts and minds of young people.
It's on their website.
Here it is right here. Nope, I got it right here. This is January 4th, 2020 in the New York Times. Right-wing views for Generation Z, 5 minutes at a time. Kelly, people, and I remember talking about this story. And mind you, this is long before attacks on critical race theory. And so in this story, it lays out what their strategy was. It lays out Dennis Prager, who's a conservative radio talk show host. And what did he do? He went out and he got, they started with $7 million from two billionaires in Texas. They raised $22 million the first year, $25 million the second year. And you see right here, PragerU's 5-minute ideas videos have become an indispensable propaganda device for the right. The Southern Poverty Law Center warned on his blog, citing videos like Blacks in Power Don't Empower Blacks, hosted by Wall Street Journal columnist Jason Riley, who is black. Lawrence Rosenthal, chair of the Berkeley Center for Right-Wing Studies, said he has noticed an impact from PragerU's content. It sits at this border between going off a cliff into conspiracy thinking and extreme kinds of prejudices in the name of anti-political correctness. So the article walks through here and lays out exactly what their goal was, what they were trying to do. And so they and right here, originally the idea was to build an actual physical university, but it was going to cost $250 million. So what did they do? They said, we're going to sit here and we're going right here. He pitched the early PragerU group. They could make a right-wing university online in tight 5-minute courses. The thing here, Kelly, is that when you are trying to fight one thing, we're not focusing on what the overall goal was. Their strategy, and that's what they're doing, they want to get into the minds of these kids right now, because you know what they actually feared, Kelly? They feared the reaction of white kids to the death of George Floyd and Black Lives Matter. And they said, oh, hell no, we cannot have this.
And this has been my issue when it comes to any type of progressive left-wing media outreach and the like, because far too often, especially since George Floyd, all I have seen by and large has been a tendency to see the tree and not the forest, which is what you just outlined for us just now. The forest has been there, but we're just focused on the tree being people misusing and exploiting critical race theory, the phrase of woke, and other hashtags and bylines that have been misconstrued, conflated, and the like. That's the tree. But the forest, the purpose of all of this is to indoctrinate. It is to combat the fear, or have an answer to the fear, rather, that white conservative racists have regarding their own children, regarding the next generation, because they realize that they're wrong. But they can't teach their children that they're wrong. They have to package it in such a way that makes them look good. And they are masterminds at that through PragerU, through the legislation that we've seen, through the policies that we've seen in the last couple years. They are really good at taking insidious, dangerous rhetoric and packaging it in such a way that makes you feel like you need to know this, that you need to feel this in order to be validated as an American citizen. And that's simply not the case. But left-wing progressive media needs to take a note out of that and actually see the forest, not the tree. The purpose is to get the next generation on the right track. And right now, it's a slippery slope regarding these children, regarding this next generation, to getting onto the wrong one, because the misinformation is packaged so well. Meanwhile, the truth isn't being really packaged at all.
Well, the thing here, and Matt, I'm control room, please look at my note in our chat, and I want y'all to find this piece. This is not new, and it's how they want to use media. MLK talked about this in his Selma to Montgomery March speech, and we're going to play that in a second. But we have to understand what the strategy is. It's just like when Ron DeSantis, when they start talking about the changing of defining slavery in the school textbooks in Florida, all of these folks were, oh my God, this is wrong, this is not right. DeSantis like, wasn't me, that was the task force. Here's the mistake, how I see it, Matt. The mistake is when we're attacking this one thing, but not understanding what the overall strategy was. To attack DeSantis, you must attack all of his policies, not just this one with the schools. And you have to step back and go, hold up. Do I come in full bore, or do I say, wait a minute, hold up. How do I now respond to this in a much broader, more interesting way? That, to me, is the mistake that people are making. And what's happening here with PragerU. What should be happening in Oklahoma, you're sitting here dissecting lie, 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 distortion, lie, lie, and then saying, is this what we're funding? See, so again, to me, it's being very smart about how do you attack what these folks are doing, because they are executing a very clear, defined game plan on multiple fronts.
So I have three independent thoughts on this, and the first, to go along with what you're saying, is honestly the brilliance of the strategy behind it, even though it's insidious, and that is conflation, conflation, conflation. That's why you have single-issue voters that, you know, right-wing people particularly have leveraged, who may have an issue with abortion but nothing else, voting against immigration policies that hurt their own families, or people voting against welfare policies which the greatest recipients of are white, right? The idea is you conflate everything and you make the enemy this idea of wokeness or critical race theory rather than each individual policy, to your point. And what I think is problematic in this instance is that we're honestly following along the lines of partisanship. This is less about partisanship and more about a commitment to the truth. I mean, even people who are Republicans should dislike the idea that someone repackages history in a way that's patently dishonest and then tries to indoctrinate kids. And what's ironic about that is generally you hear conservatives who push back against the government having any kind of involvement in indoctrinating or otherwise imposing beliefs on people, right?
Except when they control it.
Except when they control it, because allegedly that's a core tenet of, you know, conservatism, right? Leave me alone. Or libertarianism, really more specifically. But nonetheless, I think that that's ironic, and I think that that goes to the idea that this is less about the true policy and more about the appearance of things and the maintenance of whiteness, realistically. And beyond that, the thing I think is interesting about this situation, I had to look up the law because I wanted to be sure that I wasn't wrong. But I think this is actually patently unconstitutional. I'm glad Dion and his team are looking at this, because this is what's called viewpoint discrimination. And I'm sure you know this as a journalist, but the government cannot single out viewpoints that it disallows from being spoken or otherwise communicated. And that is precisely what Ryan Walters, a part of the government, is doing when he says, I don't like what this person is saying. I don't like their position on my policies. Therefore, I'm not going to allow them to come to press conferences or otherwise interview me. But anyone whose viewpoints are aligned with mine, I'll allow them to come. I mean, that's constitutional law 101, and the Supreme Court really does not like viewpoint discrimination. And this is going to be very hard to defend that in this circumstance. So I hope they file a lawsuit, because I think it will be very important for rooting out in this era that we see now, where our politicians and government are on social media for holding them to task. Because at the end of the day, you don't get to say, I don't like what the Black Wall Street, you know, journalists are saying, as opposed to journalists from any other outfit. You don't get to do that, and that is patently disallowed. So I'm hoping they bring a lawsuit, because I think it really is important to hold Ryan Walters to task on this, particularly where he himself is espousing and sharing viewpoints that are aligned with his insane ideology.
And of course, it's no different than when the people who sued Trump for blocking them on Twitter, and the courts are like, nah, you can't do that as a politician. Now, right. Let me explain to people again, and y'all heard me talk about this here, and you heard me say one of my biggest complaints is when people sit here and they only play one or two of Dr. King's speeches and they don't actually play even the whole thing to understand it. So we've often talked about the Selma to Montgomery March, okay? The speech that he gave on the steps of Montgomery was Our God is Marching On. That was the name of the sermon that he gave. But the thing that was amazing about that particular speech is that he talked about a particular book in that speech that dealt with the issues of Jim Crow and how Jim Crow came about. And he talked about how media was used to actually create the wedge of Jim Crow. And the reason that's important is because y'all have heard me say on numerous occasions why media matters. You've heard me say on numerous occasions how media is used in a certain way. How close are we to getting that, folks? And when you hear MLK break this down, I want you to think about how it was used for 92 years after the Great Compromise of 1877. And I want you to think about what conservative media is doing today. Because what he says in this speech is literally the exact same thing that you're seeing today. And their whole goal is to drive the wedge. And so when Kelly talked about progressive media and liberal media, the problem with progressive media is they do it stupid. They do it, it's just stupid. Where they literally want to be jokey joke. Remember Air America Radio? And it was like, let's use comedy. The right ain't using comedy. They're going for the jugular. But see, progressive and liberals always want to sit here and be jokey. And I remember flying to New York and interviewing with them to be a part of their morning show. And I was sitting there and I was kind of like, what the hell y'all talking about? Y'all sitting trying to use comedy? No, comedy ain't the way to do it. That ain't what they're doing. And these conservative billionaires, they literally are funding. They are funding all of this. They're putting $7, $8, $10 million. I saw the story the other day about Project Veritas, which has imploded. Y'all, Project Veritas raised $22 million in 2021. $22 million. Do y'all understand? Do y'all understand $22 million? It would take us, if you look at the revenue that we generate, it would take us 9 years to hit that. They raise it in 1 year. So understand that they are doing something all by design. So here's MLK speaking in Montgomery. This is the speech that took place on March 25th, 1965. But I want you to listen to what he describes as to how Jim Crow was created and the parallels to 2023.
Our whole campaign in Alabama has been centered around the right to vote. In focusing the attention of the nation and the world today on the flagrant denial of the right to vote, we are exposing the very origin, the root cause of racial segregation in the Southland. Racial segregation as a way of life did not come about as a natural result of hatred between the races immediately after the Civil War. There were no laws segregating the races then. As the noted historian C. Van Woodard in his book, The Strange Career of Jim Crow, clearly points out, the segregation of the races was really a political stratagem employed by the emerging urban interests in the South to keep the Southern masses divided and Southern labor the cheapest in the land. You see, it was a simple thing to keep the poor white masses working for near starvation wages in the years that followed the Civil War. Why, if the poor white plantation, a mill worker became dissatisfied with his low wages, the plantation or mill owner would merely threaten to fire him and hire a former Negro slave and pay him even less. Thus, the Southern wage level was kept almost unbearably low. Toward the end of the Reconstruction era, something very significant happened. Listen to it. There developed what was known as the populist movement. The leaders of this movement began awakening the poor white masses. Yes, sir. The former Negro slaves to the fact that they were being fleeced by the emerging fervent interest. Not only that, but they began uniting the Negro and white masses into a voting bloc that threatened to drive the fervent interest from the command post of political power in the South. To meet this threat, the Southern aristocracy began immediately to engineer the development of a segregated society. I want you to follow me through here because this is very important to see the roots of racism and the denial of the right to vote. Through their control of mass media, they revived the doctrine of white supremacy. They saturated the thinking of the poor white masses with it, thus clouding their minds to the real issue involved in the populist movement. They then directed the placement on the books of the South of laws that made it a crime for Negroes and whites to come together as equals at any level. Yes, sir. And that did it. That crippled and eventually destroyed the populist movement of the 19th century.
So right there, he says, through their control of mass media, they revised the doctrine of white supremacy. They saturated the thinking of the poor white masses with it, thus clouding their minds to the real issue involved in the populist movement. That is the point that I'm trying to make, folks. How they're using PragerU and the Daily Wire and the Daily Signal and Fox News and Conservative Talk Radio and all of these conservative media outlets, they are seeing what is going on. There's a reason why they are targeting early voting locations on college campuses. There's a reason why. Because their fear is that white kids, folks, this is why they hate the 1619 Project. This is why they hate all of these other efforts where you have the likes of folks telling the true story. This is why they are trying to toss out books by black authors and others. It is because white children in America have been taught a lie. And what they're angry about is that you now have new professors, new thinkers who are now creating new curriculums that challenge the lies that we've been told. And so the PragerUs of the world, they see what's going on. They're sitting here going, we cannot have white kids being told the truth about America. So therefore, we have to create systems that continue to perpetuate the lies that we have been told. And that's why you have such a visceral reaction to this redefining of America. It is because whiteness has defined education in America. Whiteness has defined how we have gotten our media. And what they're angry about is that folks like me no longer have to wait to be tapped on the shoulder by a white media executive in order to have a show or a network. And so what you're seeing are these white conservative Republican politicians using their power to align with these interests like Christopher Rufo and PragerU to say, you do the media, we got political power, we're now going to change this thing educationally, because if we can get their hearts and minds, as King said right here, they saturated the thinking of the poor white masses with it, thus clouding their minds to the real issue involved in the populist movement. And that is their strategy today. We need to understand that. And I totally support These folks in Florida, these black churches saying, we're going to teach our own history. This ain't about us, y'all. They scared of their white kids and grandkids actually learning. And that has to be our goal. Our goal has to be teaching them. Our goal has to be reaching them. And I know there's somebody black who's watching, man, we ain't got time to be worried about them. Y'all, they ain't freaking out by us. We've been this way since 1619. What they're scared of are radicalized white kids who start aligning with us on the issues just as they did during the populist movement. That's what it means when you begin to understand the greater focus, and that's what they're afraid of, because it's all white fear by the browning of America. I'll be right back on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us.
We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it.
This is about covering us.
Invest in black-owned media.
Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks.
We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible.
Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
On a next, A Balanced Life with me, Dr. Jackie, we're going to be talking about common sense. We think that people have it, know how to use it, but it is something that people often have to learn. The truth is, most of us are not born with it, and we need to teach common sense, embrace it, and give it to those who need it most, our kids.
So I always tell teachers to listen out to what conversations the students are having about what they're getting from social media, and then let's get ahead of it and have the appropriate conversations with them.
On a next, A Balanced Life with me, Dr. Jackie, here at Black Star Network.
President Biden has delivered for Black America. More funding for Black entrepreneurs. Millions of new good-paying jobs. He's lowering the cost of medications and the cost of living. Joe Biden is delivering for us, and that's the facts.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kim Coles.
Hey, I'm Donnie Simpson.
Yo, it's your man Deion Cole from Blackish, and you watch
Roland Martin Unfiltered.
It's been about 16 months since the small black majority black town of Mason, Tennessee reached an agreement preventing the state comptroller Jason Munpower from taking over its finances. Mason, Tennessee is about 45 miles northeast of Memphis. According to the 2020 census, the population is 1,337. Former Mason Vice Mayor, Alderwoman Virginia Rivers is here to tell us what's going on there. Glad to have you back, Virginia. So what's happening? Are y'all back in control of your finances, or is the state still running your business?
The state is still in control of our finances. They still, as of right now, far as the finance is concerned, we still have to get approval through them if we are paying a bill over $1,000 as of now. We are hopeful that when this, when our budget get approved through them, that we will be released. That's what we're hoping for.
So, but how are the residents responding? Are people still upset that y'all are not in full control of your money?
I don't think so. It's different. It's different. People have different views, different feelings about things. So it's hard to say how some are feeling. You still got those that are concerned, those that do care, and you got those that don't care, and those are just sitting and looking.
So who makes a decision to return power to y'all, and have they yet given y'all any indication when that's going to happen?
The comptroller does. They once they like I said, we just finished up our 2023 audit and it's into them. And once the audit get approved, we'll be starting our 2024 budget audit. I'm sorry. We already started the budget. And once this is approved through them, then we're looking forward to hopefully they're releasing control of our finance.
All right, then. And is there anything else that you still want people to be able to do to help y'all?
Basically, just keep basically lifting us up in prayer, because we're still going through a struggle because of the things that have occurred. They're always trying to come up with a way to get what they wanted from the beginning. Because right now, we got to get a director for our water system, our wastewater. We have an interim director, but we have to get a director, and we're supposed to have had one by August the 15th, which they extended to the 1st of this month, September the 1st. So by September the 24th, we will have to know for sure, or not the 24th, I backed it up, it's the 26th, that we will probably have to go to Nashville. They have sent a letter summoning the mayor and the board of aldermen to Nashville because of our failure to have a interim director in place. But we're still working on it. Hopefully before then, we will have everything in place.
All right. Well, Virginia, we surely appreciate the update. Thanks a bunch. Good luck.
We thank you. Basically, and I would like to say this, I would like the people to know I'm still appreciative of all the calls and their concern for Mason, because Mason is still struggling, not as far as our debts, all that's been paid. What we're up against now is they're coming at us another way to try to still take our waterways. But again, we will try to come through.
All right, then. We'll appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
All right, folks. Some breaking news out of Georgia. Mark Meadows, sorry, player. Your trial is not getting moved to federal court. A judge denied that. And so Fonnie Willis, the Fulton County DA, she keeps winning over these Trump folks. The judge denied the request, making it perfectly clear that he is going to have to go to the Georgia. New York Times said the setback for Mr. Meadows is the first of many rulings that are expected for the Georgia defendants who are seeking to have their cases removed. Mr. Trump has now filed for removal to federal court, but he is widely expected to do so. However, the ruling by Judge Stephen C. Jones of the Northern District of Georgia does not bode well for those efforts. Quote, there is no federal jurisdiction over the criminal case. Judge Jones, who was appointed by President Barack Obama, wrote in his ruling, the outcome of this case will be for a Fulton County judge and trier of fact to ultimately decide. That right there, it was always going to be tough for them, Matt. But again, they obviously do not want to have to deal with all them black folks in Fulton County.
And, you know, look, I'm a lawyer. I don't begrudge lawyers making interesting arguments, and the idea that they tried to remove it to federal court, which is ironic because a lot of lawyers rather don't want to practice in federal court because it's considerably more stringent. But the idea that they tried to move it to basically say this is a federal question because it concerns how they were acting in positions, under federal color of law is interesting. But I expected this ruling, and I'm glad that this ruling was sent down, and I'm wondering what the 11th Circuit, which is the circuit over Georgia, will do. But I suspect they'll say, look, this is why we have federalism. The state of Georgia and Fonnie Willis have a specific sphere of influence, and that sphere of influence allows her to indict people under Georgia RICO statutes, which is precisely what she did, and that does not make this a federal question because you are in a federal capacity, and I think that's important, and I think we'll see If that same judge is the one sitting in judgment, we'll see that same answer in Donald Trump's lawsuit on this point, or rather his motion on this point to try to remove it to federal court.
While that happened today, the Georgia grand jury's report investigating Donald Trump and others, they actually recommended another 21 people be indicted for their role in trying to steal the election. The report was released, included saying the grand jury said the Republican senator from South Carolina, Lindsey Graham, should have been indicted, as well as former Georgia senators David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler. In addition, they said attorney Lynn Wood, Cleta Mitchell, and also Trump advisor Boris Epstein should have also been indicted. That says the grand jury cited a statute, quote, alleging commission of a crime without specifying the offense. Graham had this to say about the grand jury's report recommending he be charged for his role in the Georgia election interference case.
This is troubling for the country. We can't criminalize senators doing their job when they have a constitutional requirement to fulfill. It would be irresponsible for me, in my opinion, as chairman of the committee, not to try to find out what happened. It would be irresponsible for me to tell the voters of South Carolina what I did without actually trying to find out what the right answer was. So we're opening up Pandora's box here. Fulton County is one of the most liberal jurisdictions in the country. I fear this will spread, that the next election, Democrats may be on the other side of this. So at the end of the day, nothing happened. What I did was consistent with my job as being United States Senator, chairman of the Judiciary Committee, but it was just not me. 3 United States senators. We're opening up Pandora's box. I think the system in this country is getting off the rails, and we have to be careful not to use the legal system as a political tool.
Kelly, I'm confused. When did it become the job of a U.S. Senator from South Carolina to be calling the Secretary of State of Georgia looking for some votes for Donald Trump? I'm sorry, and then as the chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee, I'm sorry, did the Senate Judiciary Committee have jurisdiction over the election in Georgia?
No. Nope. And I don't know. To answer your first question, I don't know. To answer your second question, no. When I first saw this story come out, I had to double check and make sure that Lindsey Graham was the senator of South Carolina, because I was just like, why are you minding their business? Mind your business, right? But further, let's just say he stands 10 toes down in this lie about he's doing this in the capacity as a senator. You didn't let the rest of your committee know what you were doing. You didn't disclose any of your actions to the committee before you were doing it. None of the committee outside of you knew what you were doing. So how can you say that was on behalf of the committee in the Senate? It goes back to the arguments that even the cops are talking about in Pennsylvania. Like, people are just making up crap in order to cover their ass. And, in this case, he's not indicted. I personally believe it's because the DA in Fulton County, while there may have been evidence there, she chose to pick her battle. She picked her strongest ones, and she's got a strong case. And she didn't want to muddy the waters by indicting a senator from South Carolina minding the business of people in Georgia. I mean, that's just me. That's what I think happened. Obviously, I'm not the DA, but he slipped by once. I think there's going to be other chances to get at him, and I personally would just stay away from a mic from here on out until you're completely in the clear, because
I love this BS, Michael, by Graham. It should never be a crime for a federal elected official, go to my iPad, particularly the chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, who will have to vote to certify a presidential election, to question and ensure the integrity of that election. I'm sorry. First and foremost, let's be clear here. He would have voted to certify the entire election.
Right.
Lindsey Graham called Georgia specifically.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, where there's a Republican governor, a Republican lieutenant governor, a Republican secretary of state, a Republican who ran the elections. All of those Republicans said free and fair election. And by the way, isn't it interesting? Nobody contested any of their races. So the only election was Trump's. They didn't even question any of the other statewide races. Just this one. Senator Lindsey Graham is a lying sack of shit.
Well, absolutely. He's been that way for some time. I think his spine is buried in the casket of Senator John McCain, because something happened to Lindsey Graham after John McCain's death.
Easy, power. Power did. The thirst for power.
Well, power, and he's a coward. Okay, and he's a sniveling coward as well. So here you have, now I thought Republicans were for states' rights. Here you have a U.S. senator, right, infringing upon the rights of a state to run their election. I thought they were for states' rights. And the vote was 13-7, okay? Actually, the special purpose grand jury, they suggested that he be indicted, but it probably was not as strong of a case as the other ones. The other total was a total of 19 who were indicted. So you had 21 who were unindicted, all right? And I read the 98-page indictment that actually listed 30 unindicted co-conspirators. So this really hurts the argument of a lot of these MAGA nuts saying this was a witch hunt, where you see, well, wait a second. Fani Willis chose not to indict 21 of these idiots, but to indict 19. She's going with the strongest case, and justice is going to be rendered to all of them one way or another. Either it's going to be this case, it's going to be another case, or something like this. He died. Lindsey Graham dies this one, but I think the wheels of justice, the long arm of justice, is going to end up catching up with Lindsey Graham.
Watching Matt might say, you know what, I just think that you guys are giving too much attention to this. No, because what people need to understand, Matt, this is a dry run for what they're going to do. I need to take you back to 2000. Roger Stone was there in Florida in Bush v. Gore, in Bush versus Gore. They were there intimidating those folks who were doing the recounts down there. They were doing dirty tricks then. So this ain't like no new thing here. We're gonna have close elections, and these people are looking at this here, and they're trying to figure out, how do we game this system again?
Yeah, I think that's right. But let me zone in on something about this grand jury that we're not discussing. What people may not realize is, first, we don't have all the evidence, so we don't know the extent of what they had on Lindsey Graham. But the real hustle is, if they don't indict him, he can be called as a witness.
Precisely.
Right? And he does not get all of the protections of a defendant. So this might be a brilliant strategic move by Fani Willis's team, where they said, we don't love all the evidence we have, or maybe we do love the evidence we have on Lindsey Graham, and what we'll do is we'll smoke him out. Right? We'll call him to testify, and he'll either have to plead the fifth,
and let's see, or perjure himself.
Or he'll perjure himself, or he'll testify to exactly what he did. So first, I don't understand how somebody who's a sitting United States senator does not have a competent lawyer that says, keep your monkey behind off TV making any kind of statement.
Easy, because he was a JAG lawyer in, I think he was in the Air Force, and he thinks he's smarter than them.
Well, cool story, bro, because you're an idiot if you're out making statements and a grand jury has, submitted a report saying they think you should be indicted. First thing is, shut your behind up to begin with. But beyond that, this might be precisely why they didn't indict him, because they're going to smoke him out and put him on the stand and make him testify and make him do the song and dance, where he'll have to either lie, tell the truth, or plead the fifth. So this could not be a matter of them, either overlooking the evidence or deciding not to charge him and Perdue and Kelly Loeffler. They might be, intending to leverage them. And as we've said before, I expect relatively soon we'll start to hear who's cooperating with this investigation. And it could be one of those circumstances where Lindsey Graham's team, had him be king for a day, where he proffered or otherwise gave evidence to the government, with the exception or with the understanding that he wouldn't be indicted, or at least not on what he provided. I mean, there's so many things behind the scenes that we don't know. that could be coloring this decision, but I suspect it's probably strategic, in which case we may see Lindsey Graham in the witness seat sooner than later.
I just want everybody to understand these people are going to try to do this again. Listen to me, people, and y'all keep hearing me say this, and I blasted Chris Christie on this. Listen to me very clearly. The Republican Party, they have no morals, no values, no principles, no ethics. They care about power. It's about the power. And they will do whatever is necessary to hold on to that power. And we had better realize that. Gotta go to a break, we come back. Air Force veteran, a brother, challenged Ron DeSantis. Ooh, Ronnie wasn't happy at all, y'all, by getting challenged by his brother. We'll show you next on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Don't forget to support us what we do. Download the Black Star Network app, Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. Also, please join our Bring the Funk fan club. Your dollars are critically important for us to do the work that we do. Send your check and money order to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. Cash App, $RM Unfiltered. PayPal, R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. And be sure to get a copy of my book, White Fear, how the browning of America is making white folks lose their minds. Available at bookstores nationwide. We'll be right back.
Next, right here on The Frequency, the woman they call the Gifted Eye, hip-hop celebrity photographer Coy Soldier. She's the master storyteller that captured the history of hip-hop through the lens of her camera.
Tupac comes out, the next thing you know, you didn't know who they were at first. You just seen all these dudes just come rushing the stage. Then you realize Biggie gets a bottle of champagne, he pops it open, sprays it on the crowd, he drinks the bottle.
Coy Soldier, the hip-hop celebrity photographer, joining me right here on the next episode of The Frequency on the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen shooting.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
I'm Faraji Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture. Weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
My name is Lena Charles, and I'm from Opelousas, Louisiana. Yes, that is Zydeco capital of the world.
My name is Margaret Chappelle. I'm from Dallas, Texas, representing the Urban Trivia Game.
It's me, Sherry Shepard, and you know what you watch.
Roland Martin on Unfiltered.
Folks, today in Jacksonville, the first of 3 funerals of the African Americans killed in that Dollar General. Angela Carr was buried today in Jacksonville. A number of people obviously were there for her funeral. Reverend Rudolph McKissick, this took place at his church. Reverend Al Sharpton was there. So many others were there as well. Again, 3 black people were gunned down by a white racist in that Family Dollar. And the first of all 3, Angela Carr, was laid to rest today. Here's some of what was said at her funeral.
So I'm not gonna keep y'all long, but I just want to reflect on my mother, my strong, beautiful queen. Oh man, this is hard. I'm not gonna lie, this is hard. But I ain't gonna keep y'all long. But she was strong. She was a hard-working woman. I watched her do everything as a child, you know. And we talk every day, no matter what. Every day. Mad, sad, happy, it didn't matter. It could be raining outside. It could be a hurricane, she gonna call me. And that Saturday, it wasn't right.
So the audio that we got from the church actually dipped out there again. Just so sad that this sister lost her life there. Of course, just simply shopping, and a white racist hell-bent on killing black folks killed her. And so condolences certainly go out to her son there and the Carr family. A black veteran challenged Governor Ron DeSantis, said he and his rhetoric and his policies were the reason why those black people were targeted. Here was that fiery exchange.
Allow weapons to be put in the street in immature, capable people that have caused the deaths of people who were murdered a couple weeks ago. Trayvon Martin was not the first.
So first of all, I did not allow anything with that. Well, listen. Excuse me. I'm not going to let you accuse me of committing criminal activity. I am not going to take that. I am not going to take that. So you want to have a civil conversation, that's one thing. Try to say that I'm letting, that guy was Baker acted. He should have been ruled ineligible, but they didn't involuntarily commit him, and so they weren't. No, there is the truth. There is something about the truth. It's not everyone doesn't have their own truth. No. You don't get to come here and blame me for some madman. That is not appropriate, and I'm not going to accept it.
You have allowed people to hunt people like me.
Oh, that is nonsense. That is such nonsense. We've done more to support law enforcement in this state than anybody throughout the United States. Our crime rate in Florida is at a 50-year low. We have enacted policies so that people have a chance to live in safety. We have attracted people to come to this state in large part because we've had a commitment to public safety. So the notion that somehow we're not supportive of safety is absurd. And we've put our money where our mouth is. We've put support behind policies to hold people accountable who hurt other people. You haven't seen us releasing people from prison. When they hurt, when you do the crime, you do the time.
Well, Ron was sitting here lying, Michael, because the reality is he's removed a black prosecutor. He has led the removal of 2 black congressional districts. We see the attacks when it comes to history, when it comes to books, over and over and DEI, you can name it. Ron DeSantis has absolutely targeted black people, and he has given the white racists in that state and across the country hope that he is their patron saint.
Absolutely, and he's running on this at the national level for president as well. He didn't create this environment, but he has actually added fuel to the environment, pulled poured gasoline on the fire, and he's giving cover to these white supremacists as well to carry out more acts. And keep in mind, the NAACP had a travel advisory advising people to be careful going to Florida. And remember his Gestapo unit of sheriffs who were targeting African Americans and people who were former felons who were sent their voter registrations in the car, in the mail. They went through all the proper channels to get their right to vote back again, and then they're going to be arrested for voting, even though their voter registration card was sent in the mail. Okay, so Ron DeSantis has definitely helped add to this environment. So he's just standing there lying. And this is an example of how elections have consequences and the power that the governor has. And also Attorney Monique Royale, who he removed from office, she's filed a complaint against him also. Hopefully she's successful in getting her job back.
They just hate being called out, Kelly.
I mean, who likes being called out? It's, you know, when he was talking about there is the truth, not one thing that he said was the truth. The fact of the matter is Florida as a state is racist by and large, and it is not safe for Black people to be in that state because of the policies, because of the legislation, because of the culture of targeting Black people, of attacking Black people, of killing Black people, mainly at this juncture, all under DeSantis's watch. The rhetoric that comes out of his mouth, the policies that he has enacted, the legislation that he has passed, the laws that he has signed, very little of them, if any, have been beneficial truly to Black people in his state. And now he's running for president to do the same thing across the country. He is a dangerous, racist man. And he just lied for about 5 minutes on that clip.
Matt?
You know, I mean, look, two things can be true at the same time. And reality is, I get why DeSantis tried to deflect in the way that he did. And this is what you see these politicians do all the time. They throw proverbial rocks and then hide their proverbial hands. You know that if you stack up all of these policies, the direct, you know, a consequence of which is you preying on Black people, attacking Black people, and more than that, vilifying Black people, which has happened for decades, you know that the outcropping of that is going to be white supremacists who are amped up. And that's what's intellectually dishonest about this. Because if you notice, his whole defense was rooted in, I didn't allow anybody to go do that, that guy individually, blah, blah, blah. But what this brother was saying is your policies have allowed that, and they know they do that. And that's exactly why Donald Trump is going to be on trial sooner than later for, you know, all the things that he's done. And if you notice, especially as it relates to January 6th, that's the whole argument behind it. You can't continue doing things that you know are fomenting a certain type of action from people and then act as though they have independent, you know, acting authority if you know that you're essentially encouraging them to act and then acting like you didn't do that when you did. And Ron DeSantis is the king of that. So I'm glad this brother called him out, but obviously he called him out in a location where everyone there was pro DeSantis and supportive to him. I wish this had occurred somewhere else where everybody there is not going to buy that hook, line, and sinker. But the outcropping of these policies is this kind of action. So I'm glad he got called out, and we know that it's true.
Indeed. All right, folks, hold tight 1 second. We come back. Suicide. We have seen how the numbers have dramatically increased, and an increasing number of African Americans are choosing to take their own lives. What is going on? How do we prevent this from happening, and how do we help those who are close to us in time of need? We'll talk to Troy Byer next, who has an educational initiative that deals with this and so many other issues, and so we'll talk to her next on Today, which is, of course, World Suicide. First of all, this is September Suicide Prevention Month, and so we'll talk about this very important issue next, right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
On his first day in office, with the country in crisis, President Biden got to work for us, cutting Black child poverty in half, more money for Black entrepreneurs, millions of new, good-paying jobs. He's lowered the cost of living and prescription drugs. But there's more to do. He gets it because we all deserve dignity, safety, respect, and a chance to do more than just get by, but to get ahead.
I'm Joe Biden, and I approve this message.
On a next, A Balanced Life with me, Dr. Jackie, we're going to be talking about common sense. We think that people have it, know how to use it, but it is something that people often have to learn. The truth is, most of us are not born with it, and we need to teach common sense, embrace it, and give it to those who need it most, our kids.
So I always tell teachers to listen out to what conversations the students are having about what they're getting from social media, and then let's get ahead of it and have the appropriate conversations with them.
On a next, A Balanced Life with me, Dr. Jackie, here at Black Star Network. Next, right here on The Frequency, the woman they call the gifted eye, hip-hop celebrity photographer, Coy Soldier. She's the master storyteller that captured the history of hip-hop through the lens of her camera.
Tupac comes out, the next thing you know, you didn't know who they were at first. You just seen all these dudes just come rushing the stage. Then you realize Biggie gets a bottle of champagne, he pops it open, sprays it on the crowd, he drinks the bottle.
Coy Soldier, the hip-hop celebrity photographer, joining me right here on the next episode of The Frequency on the Black Star Network.
Hi, my name is Freddie Ricks. I'm from Houston, Texas.
My name is Sharon Williams. I'm from Dallas, Texas.
Right now, I'm rolling with Roland Martin, unfiltered, uncut, unplugged, and undamn believable. You hear me?
Folks, this is a photo of Johannes Kadani, a young man graduated from Cornell University, started a new job at Netflix. Well, it was about 3 weeks ago. He was found missing. Well, this week, he was actually found dead. He took his life. Google has dealt with this most recently, with 3 of their engineers taking their lives as well. September marks Suicide Prevention Month. Today is World Suicide Prevention Day. And the reality is we are seeing a dramatic increase of suicides in this country, even when it comes to African Americans. Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health recently revealed that suicide rates for black youth aged 10 to 17 more than doubled between 2007 and 2020. The researchers call the 144% increase alarming and said various socio-ecological factors and structures, including institutional racism, are contributing factors. A 2021 Centers for Disease Control survey found that 1 in 5 black high school students seriously considered attempting suicide in the past year. About 18% made a suicide plan, 15% reported attempting suicide, close to 5% needed medical attention in response to their suicide attempt. Mental wellness expert Dr. Troy Byer, she joins me now from Fort Worth. Glad to have you on the show, Troy. Always good to see you.
Yes, you too, Roland. Thank you for having me.
So, you know, the story of this young man, Johannes Kadani, I mean, is an interesting one. Again, he graduates from Cornell University, Ivy League school, extremely smart, very well, gets a great job, and then takes his own life. There was a young Asian student last year. He literally was at Texas A&M. He was the day before his graduation, was at a graduation dinner with his parents, left the dinner, never returned, did the tennis graduation, body was found a week later, took his own life as well. And so many folks are just sitting here going, how could somebody very successful, very smart, with a bright future, then decide to end their own life? Just share your thoughts on what we are facing. One, still dealing with the after effects of COVID, but also these numbers have been dramatically increasing for African Americans since 2007. That's the last 16 years.
Yeah, yeah. So the bottom line is participation is a function of value. And when people no longer want to participate in their life to the extent that suicide becomes their option, it's because they're not finding value in their life. We don't know what goes on inside of a person's head when they go into their place at night or they put their head on the pillow. The mind is a very dangerous neighborhood. You don't want to hang out there alone. And unfortunately, we don't have the mental health available that people need post COVID, and just dealing with circumstances in life overall are just very challenging. So, when we have a stress or a threat or a challenge, and we don't have the tools to navigate our way through that, then checking out becomes an option because it's no longer living is not valuable, it's hopeless. And until we learn how to really significantly provide hope for those who are hopeless, the problem is going to continue to get worse. People need to learn how to self-soothe. They need to learn about emotional resilience. Right now, the National Association of Psychology has constituted that the ratio for students is one psychologist for every 500 to 700 students. What are you going to do with that? We need to provide accessible, effective, and affordable mind care for everyone, everywhere. And until we do, the numbers are going to increase because a problem doesn't go away until we find a solution.
This is a piece from the Association of American Medical Colleges. It says suicide rates among black youth in the United States from 2018 to 2021. Black folks 10 to 24 saw the largest increase in suicides among all folks in that age group, increased by 37%.
Right.
2000 to 2020, black youths aged 10 to 19 experienced the largest increase in suicide rates, a shocking 78%. And in a research study among youngest children, ages 5 to 12, black youth were approximately 2 times more likely to die by suicide than their white counterparts. 5 to 12.
Right. That's because culturally we're existing inside of an environment that is breeding hopelessness. We don't have the proper mentors. We don't have the proper parental structures. You know, I was once a statistic in that very research that you read. I mean, I was suicidal. I attempted suicide for the first time when I was 8. I attempted suicide again when I was 10. I lived in a very poor neighborhood, predominantly black. I was dealing with a crisis at home. My mother's boyfriend was molesting me every night. When I told her, she called me a liar. I became hopeless. And then what I wanted is the pain to stop. And I thought in order for the pain to stop, I had to kill myself. And this is what's going on with our children in these environments that are not providing the mental health that they need. They feel like there's a situation in their life that they want to kill off, and they believe that the only way to do that is to kill themselves off. And that's why I created Mindology Fitness, because I want to provide our children with the tools they need to ensure that their peace of mind is organically in their hands at all times. I'm not anti-pharmaceuticals, but not every kid in the hood can make it to a doctor to get medication. Right. That takes forever. This is not about just being reactive in the moment. It's about being preventive, giving these kids the skills right now. So when they're facing a stressor or a threat or a challenge, they know how to organically interrupt the physiological process that would be exacerbated. And I'll give you an example. If you're having an anxiety attack, my program, one of the modalities we teach to children is if you're having an anxiety attack, squeeze your ring finger. That is so simple, right? Squeeze your ring finger until it pulses. What happens is you're activating the meridian that will interrupt the neurotransmitters that cause the anxiety. All the adrenals and the adrenalines and the adrenals, they are all interrupted. It's a very simple process. It works. Sometimes you have to swallow a pill to heal, but I think our children need to have a choice. I think people need to have a choice, and that's what my life work is all about. My program is now available in schools. I am just unrelentless in getting this information to our babies.
Chelsea Christ was 30 years old, was Miss USA. She was a correspondent for Extra TV. She was a lawyer. I mean, she had gotten advanced degrees. I mean, again, on the surface, looking outward in, you're like, this amazingly accomplished, smart, gorgeous sister, but she was dealing with, or they said, high-functioning depression. And that's something also that we're not dealing with, and that is the reality of so many people who are dealing with depression in their lives. A lot of our young folks were going through severe depression during COVID. They were not having proms. They were not having graduations. They were not having interaction with classmates. That went on for 2.5 years. Some people are still dealing with that. And matter of fact, I saw a report today talking about how so many kids were set back educationally because of technology, or the lack thereof. And so if our kids are being set back educationally with the lack of technology, well, sure as hell, we got to deal with their mental state because of what COVID did for those 2.5 years.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we have depression, what that means is the individual does not want to press forward. So you depress. And when a person doesn't want to press forward, move forward, that means there's nothing exciting in their future. And what's happening is these individuals are looking at their past, and history tells them their future is not going to be promising. There's no value, therefore they don't want to participate. Now, in terms of Miss America, that was a very tragic. I was so devastated when I read about that. But here's the thing, all that glitters is not gold. Just because she's shiny and pearly and beautiful on the outside doesn't mean she's not suffering. When I was being molested, I was on Sesame Street, and I was going to Sesame Street riding on Big Bird's leg and then going home at night and crying myself to sleep because I knew what was going to happen to me. So you can't let appearances fool you. And people don't know how to reach out and say, I need help. We have such a negative stigma attached to mental health, which is why I'm making it fun, effective, and affordable. Kids love taking mindology fitness classes. They love becoming the masters of their mind, and it's working for the teachers and it's working for the adults. And it's all about learning how to have emotional sovereignty. You do you, boo, because you can. And when people really believe that they can actually have emotional resilience and regulate their emotions, I believe those numbers will start to decrease without a doubt. We all want to take care of ourselves. We just need the tools to do it. And here's the last thing I want to say. If we don't teach our people how to not just survive, but thrive by providing these tools, they're going to find another tool that will help them die. A gun is a tool. All right. So we've got a choice. We either teach them how to thrive or we watch them die. And that's how serious it is right now. So I really appreciate you spending time on this topic. It's just, it has to stop.
Questions from our panel. Matt, you first.
So I appreciate your candor, Doc. And in that same spirit, I just lost a beloved cousin of mine to suicide in July. And my family and I have really been reeling because we haven't been able to identify what it is we missed, you know? Like, we felt like she was beloved. We felt like she knew she could reach out, but we are still in the throes of grief because it just happened. So my question for you is really twofold.
Right.
First, what insight do you have for people to see the signs that are maybe not overt, so we can know how to provide that support? And then I guess kind of the corollary question is, what have you found is the primary metric that keeps people from attempting it? Is it meaningful relationships? Is it purpose through their job? Just any insight like you can give in that respect would be really appreciated.
Sure. So the first thing you want to look for is isolation. When a person is feeling like they want to in their lives, they will start spending a lot of time alone. They'll also start giving things away. That's something that I noticed. They'll start, I want you to have this and I want you to have that. That's if you're lucky, you get that clue. But here's the thing about suicide, it happens in the moment. It's not always premeditated. It can be a reaction to something. So it's really hard to pinpoint it. But in my experience, I look for isolation and I look for overwhelming, unnecessary generosity of personal belongings. Okay, so that just be on the lookout for those two things. And in terms of what has a person not want to be suicidal, I can't emphasize enough. Participation in your life is a function of value. If you have value, you will want to participate. So you have to make sure that we continuously find things in life that we value. If you're depressed, put something in your future that's exciting. I don't care if it's going to a concert in the park next week. You have to have something in your future that is making you certain of being here and that you do have a purpose. And a purpose-driven life is a very successful life. But more than purpose, because a lot of people don't know what their purpose is quite yet. But just make sure that you continue to put something in your future that you find value in. It's crucial.
All right, Kelly.
Again, Doctor, thank you for bringing issue to this topic. It hits home for me because I myself have had several suicidal ideations and a couple suicidal attempts in my life, mainly before my 20s, due to a plethora of things. So I understand the struggle, and it's a struggle every single day. But I thank God that I'm here every day, and I do my best in the work that I do, to set an example for those who are going through something similar, like high functioning depression and not being able to see the signs. Like Chesley Chris was very triggering for me because it was
too.
very aligned with my own life, right? The high functioning, having a career, both being lawyers, all the things, and still feeling like you don't belong here and you need to be somewhere else. So I understand that. My question is, given, especially when it comes to Black children and the environmental factors that can be so different from our racial counterparts, are there signs or are there studies that show different signs in Black children and in Black people who are at risk for suicide as opposed to their race counterparts, are based off of their environments, based off unique situations that happen with Black people? And if so, what are they and what can we do to watch out for them?
Right. So I think that culturally, Black children are exposed to a lot more negativity just overall, not only in the communities that they're living in, if they're underprivileged communities, but then when they leave their communities, there's the racism outside of that. There's institutional racism. I think that just as a race, we deal with a lot more than most races for sure, right? So I'm not sure of a specific study, but just based off my experience, I would say absolutely there's got to be a lot more exposure to stressors, threats, and challenges that would contribute to a Black child's decision to end his or her life. In terms of what can we do about that, I think it goes back to providing role models for our children, creating mentoring programs, but more than anything is finding ways for the child to feel valuable. I can't emphasize that enough. It's all about feeling valuable and wanting to participate in your life. And from the value, we can create a purpose. Does that answer your question?
It does. It does. Thank you so much.
And by the way, I'm really happy that you were a failure at suicide.
That's a good way to look at it. Thank you.
That's right.
That's a great way to look at it. Michael.
All right. Hey, Dr. Troy, thanks for coming back and sharing this information with us. In the study that Roland mentioned at the top of this segment from Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health, it talked about the 144% increase in suicide rates for Black youth 10 to 17. And one of the factors it talked about was institutional racism. Can you talk about some of the ways institutional racism contributes to suicide or suicide attempts in African American youth or adults? Because we hear so many people saying racism doesn't exist, right? But there's studies proving that it does. Can you talk about that, please?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So institutionalized racism is inherent in our culture, no matter where we go. And I think it's more so for us people of color because a lot of these institutions are not governed by people of color. They're governed by other races, as you know. And in that experience, there's the experience that we have of inadequacy. And when you start feeling inadequate about yourself, again, it goes back to not feeling valuable, not feeling like you don't belong. And then, like the guy at Netflix, I don't want to go too far down that rabbit hole, but when I hear stories like that, that to me, I assert, has something to do with racism within his experience, that it wasn't fulfilling enough for him to go back. So he got depressed and then it just felt hopeless. So he checked out. That would be my assertion at this point without knowing everything, but enough to know that when we put our people in environments where they feel like they don't belong, then they don't want to be there. And when they don't want to be there, then they check out. And when they check out, they go into isolation, then they go into their head. And as I said, your mind is a very dangerous neighborhood. You don't need to be hanging out there alone, especially if you're dealing with a crisis. And then they just check out because it's hopeless. It becomes hopeless, and suicide just becomes the only viable option when you want something to stop. But again, I want to just underscore for anyone who's listening, if you feel like you want to kill yourself, check in with yourself. It's not that you want to kill yourself. Consider there's something in your life that you need to kill off. And don't collapse that with killing yourself. Don't allow a temporary crisis to lead to a permanent experience.
All right, then. Troy, always glad to have you. First off, again, let people know your website, how to reach you.
Okay, you can reach me at Mindology for Youth. That is the organization, that's the educational initiative that I've created to provide mental health fitness for kids. We're in schools. If you're a principal, you're a teacher, we want to be in your school. There is no charge for our programs. We will come out and we will teach your teachers how to become emotional resilient experts so that they can actually deliver the program to their students on a daily basis. So that's how you can reach me. And Roland, thank you. Always good to be with you.
I think Matt has a question. Matt, were you trying to ask a question?
Last question. Yes, I do. Dr. Troy, I'm sorry, but as a parent in particular and a parent of a teenager, what suggestions, if any, do you have on social media and how parents need to help guard social media and their children with respect to suicidal ideations or anything to that respect? Because what I'm always concerned about is I think children these days are bombarded with considerably more messages than prior generations were. So what is your thought in that respect and what parents can do to protect their children?
So I think that parents have a really challenging job these days because of social media, because that's the competition. You've got to be more interesting and more entertaining than social media, and you need to make it your business to be that way. So what I encourage parents to do is to really find ways to co-create projects with your child. So right now I'm parenting two 15-year-olds, and I make it my business to find ways to have them want to engage with interacting with me as opposed to social media, because too much time on social media is probably the worst thing that these kids can be doing right now. So you just got to really get up in your child's backyard. That's what I say. You got to know what they're watching, know what they're into, have bigger conversations than the ones they're having with the people on social media, and really make it your business to be as engaging as you possibly can with your child, and lower, and I'm telling this to everyone, lower that discipline, what is it, that urge to discipline your child. And I'm not asking you to be their friend, but I'm asking you to meet them on their level and let them know that you're there and you care. It's very important to start open conversations. I mean, some of the things my kids and I talk about, I can't even believe it, but I love that they know that they can talk about it with me. It's very important to keep that open communication and create that if you don't have it.
All right, then. Well, Doc Troy, appreciate it. Yes, some of y'all, I've seen y'all comments. Y'all like, wait a minute, is that the woman who was an actress? Yes, that's the same Troy Byer, actress and director. Of course, one of my favorites. Love her.
I love you too, Roland. You're the best. And you know what, Roland? I just want to thank you for all those dancing videos that you post, because when I'm depressed, that's my value.
Well, look, my fly's real simple. My legs work, I'm going to use them.
Yes, thank you.
I
really
appreciate it. Thanks a bunch. Okay. Always good to see you. Thanks a lot.
You too. Thanks.
Folks,
bye-bye.
Before we go, some breaking news out of Louisiana. We've been covering this story. A federal judge has told Louisiana, remove every young person from Angola prison and get it done in a week. This decision has just come down. U.S. District Judge Shelley Dick of the Middle District of Louisiana found that conditions at Angola constitute cruel and unusual punishment and violate the 14th Amendment of the Constitution. There was a lawsuit filed by the ACLU against Governor John Bel Edwards, a Democrat, after he announced that the state was going to be sending children to Angola because 6 juveniles had escaped from the Bridge City Center for Youth. And again, it was supposed to be temporary, but this has been going on, folks, since September of 2022. This story says, quote, the judge found that prison officials locked the juveniles in cells for days at a time and punished them with the use of handcuffs, pepper spray, and denial of family visits. The state failed to provide adequate staffing, including licensed social workers or professional counselors, appropriate education, and necessary mental health treatment on social services. according to this federal judge. This is, again, sort of the shameful behavior we saw in Louisiana. And let me remind people again, Kelly, this is a federal judge. Who appoints federal judges? Presidents. Who confirms federal judges? The United States Senate. So all the people who sit out here who say that those 100+ judges that Biden and Harris have appointed don't matter, this is what happens when you get judges who have compassion and empathy and care about civil rights.
Absolutely. I mean, your point regarding federal judges, I mean, we talked about that in a couple segments ago, even regarding the case against Meadows. Like, if I'm not mistaken, the judge who said, no, you can't bring this here was appointed by Obama. So everything matters. Everything matters. Your vote matters. The presidents absolutely matter. Your voice matters. And it might seem small, but you can clearly see how large of an impact it has when you see stories like this that actually work in the positive and work in the direction that America needs to go in.
Michael, the state tried to suggest that this was supposed to be a temporary facility, but the reality is that we've had folks on this show discussing is how they were treating these young people was absolutely despicable.
Yeah, it was. I remember those stories and remember covering this. And if I remember correctly, when we talked about this, the youth were, I don't remember the percentage of African Americans that were in Angola who were youth, but I think it was the majority of them.
Yes, no, it was a majority. Absolutely was a majority.
Okay. And, you know, this is, once again, this is why it's so important to vote for competent presidents and competent people in the U.S. Senate, because they appoint and confirm federal judges, but also the governor. This is wrong on so many levels. This is wrong for the governor to have agreed with this as well. So this is the type of prison reform that we need, not just criminal justice reform, but also prison reform. And, you know, this reminds me of Khalif Browder in Rikers Prison for 3 years awaiting trial.
Yep.
And because of the horror that he suffered, you know, he's eventually released. Okay. He was never convicted. He declared his innocence, but because of what he suffered there, he ends up committing suicide.
Matt, 320 kids were sent there, 80% of them Black.
Yeah, and every single one of those families should get, you know, unlimited mental health and all of the treatment that the children need, because the reality is our juvenile system is set up completely different from our adult system to at least theoretically recognize the fact that children are not fully formed adults, right? And mentally, the trauma from being put in somewhere like Angola, which we know is a historically brutal place for adults, let alone children, is something that is going to stand with them forever. So I'm hoping that this is more than just the judge saying, them, you know, get them out of there. I'm hoping there's an actual reparative program, and I'm not a high believer that that will happen by the state's just own benevolence, but I'm hoping that does happen for these kids. But I'm glad to see the judge made a decisive decision in this case.
And to your point, there was a 17-year-old kid who was transferred there in October of last year, diagnosed with ADHD, PTSD, and bipolar as well. Said his nightmares related to his trauma history have only gotten worse. And so, again, that is a great decision. Folks, that is it for us. Matt, Michael, as well as Kelly, I appreciate y'all joining us on today's show. Thank you so very much. Everybody who's watching and listening, please support us in what we do. Download the Black Star Network app, Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. Also, please join our Bring the Funk fan club. The conversations that we're having are not being held on mainstream media. You aren't even seeing this many Black commentators at one time on mainstream television. And so when you support us with your dollars, you are supporting us telling these stories. Send check and money orders to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. Cash App, $ RM Unfiltered, PayPal, R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Be sure to get a copy of my book, White Fear, How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Mind, available at bookstores nationwide. Download your copy. First of all, you can get it from Barnes & Noble, IndieBound, Books A Million. Get it on Amazon. Also, download the audio version on Audible. And folks, tomorrow I'm going to be at the Vice President's residence. She's having a celebration of hip-hop 50 years, and so I'll have some of that for you for Monday's show. Monday, I will be broadcasting from Houston. My uncle, my godfather, passed away last week. The funeral is going to be on Monday in Houston, so I will be there. And then next week, we're going to be in Chicago. McDonald's is having their Inspiration Gospel concert, and we're going to be doing interviews with a number of the artists next week. The concert is next Friday in Chicago, next Saturday in Detroit. I will be at both of those, so we look forward to that. So we'll be on the road soon, so looking forward to doing all of that. Thank you so very much, folks. Y'all have an absolute fabulous weekend, and I'll see you on Monday. Holla!